Overlook Horizon High Altitude Balloons, an Ontario County nonprofit.
This is no ordinary balloon.
What a view!
Over 110,000 feet.
This is incredible.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon, coming to you live this morning here for a little Saturday morning launch, and hopefully the end of our Scrub Fest here is over. Crossing our fingers here this morning to see if the SpaceX Falcon 9 will actually launch this morning, carrying the GPS-3 satellite mission for the Air Force. So if in case you haven't been following along so far, we've had a bunch of attempts that have come and gone so far. Originally this was scheduled it was scheduled a couple of weeks ago, but the first real attempt at it was this past Tuesday on the 18th. We gave it a shot, and then they had some sensor readings that scrubbed it for the day. Then we had some weather issues on Thursday and Friday, and so we've gone from Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, all the way to today. We're finally going to give it another attempt, but the issues are not quite yet over. Still, we've got upper level winds that are a big issue for today, and they are still watching those upper level winds. The final determination on upper level winds does not happen until T-minus 30 seconds that they'll actually make the final determination. So they could still scrub this at any time today, but we're really hoping that it does not. It does not happen, and that it actually will fly. The good news is, with all that being said, that they have started propellant loading, which is usually the thing that we look for to see if they're really going to give this a go. So the last attempt that was going to be on Thursday, they didn't even start propellant loading. The weather was so bad. I'm not even sure why they got as far as they did, because the weather was just so bad on Thursday. But they didn't even start propellant loading because they knew that it just wasn't going to happen on Thursday. So today, they're actually loading fuel, the RP-1 rocket-grade kerosene, into the Falcon 9, and the liquid oxygen. Those are being loaded into the Falcon 9 right now, which is usually a good indication that they really do think that there's a chance that they might launch this today. So, as I mentioned, upper level winds, the big concern, and we'll take a look here. I do have a couple, we'll jump right into it here, just to give you an idea on what we're looking at for upper level winds. So this is kind of the wind map. This is the upper level wind map here. Let's get this out of the way, get my comments out of the way. The upper level wind map here. These are the winds at about 12,000 meters here. And you can see that the bulk of the winds here is this dark, deep purplish color that's going right directly over Cape Canaveral. 106 mile per hour winds, 105, 107, 108, 109, 110, all up and down the eastern coast here of Florida at those upper level winds. So pretty strong winds going on there. And you're also going to look at potential wind shear. So I haven't really played around with this too much, but one of the things you'll look for, so this is at 2,500 meters. The winds are a little less, but one of the things you're looking at for wind shear is two completely different directions. So if you get a southeasterly wind and then all of a sudden it turns west at 110 miles per hour, that can do a little bit of damage there. So this is what we're looking at wind-wise this morning. In addition to that, so a couple of people confused. This is the weather forecast that the 45th Space Wing puts out ahead of all the rocket launches that go on Cape Canaveral. And if you followed along with this a couple days beforehand and you were looking at today's, everybody kept saying today's 90% go for weather, which is true, except that 90% does not include upper level winds. So when people are talking about that 90% chance of go, what they're looking at is launch day probability of violating launch weather constraints. And so these are generally looking at ground level winds, cloud cover, precipitation that's going to be happening. It does not include, that percentage does not include the upper level winds. So this is 10% chance of violating conditions, meaning 90% chance of go. with the asterisk being this does not include upper level winds, which they evaluate on launch day. So a little bit of confusion there as well that some people had going into this here. So that's what we're looking at for today. And let's see, where'd my comments go? Let me pull these all up just to make sure. At least the skies are clear, says Triforce Keyblade on YouTube. That is true. It is a beautiful day in Florida today. I should have grabbed that picture that SpaceX tweeted this morning so we could show it, but I didn't grab it for the broadcast. Wagon Queen is standing in the swamp east of Titusville, and it's cold out here. Yeah, she says it better go up this time. Yeah, I hope for your sake, especially if you're standing in the swamp east of Titusville, that it does go up for you. Mike Ferguson wants to know if the internal lobster tank pressure is nominal for launch. I believe they did check that, and it is nominal for launch. So Space Lobster is go for launch as well. Let's see. Where'd my other comments go here? All right, so we covered this a little bit a couple days ago on the broadcast, but for anybody that didn't follow a couple days ago, we ought to just check in and see what this mission is all about here. So this is the GPS-3 mission. This is a national security mission for the Air Force, which is a big deal for SpaceX because they've been working very hard to get more and more national security flights, top secret flights. Generally United Launch Alliance has kind of has done quite a bit of those for the government, and SpaceX really wants to creep into that and start doing more and more of those. So this is a big deal for SpaceX to be able to do a national security mission for the Air Force today. And these are GPS satellites that are being launched here, which is the GPS that you use on your phone or on your devices, or that the military uses. So this is an upgrade to our existing GPS systems. I don't know the actual specifics on what is being upgraded or the technical details of that, but this is an upgrade to the GPS system here. And this is our mission patch here for today. Let's see. And our timeline-wise, so this is what we're looking at timeline. So we talked about fueling underway, which just started a few minutes ago. So fueling is underway. They'll do engine chill and all their pre-launch checks, and liftoff today is going to be at 9:21 Eastern time, which is about 23 minutes from now. So we got 23 minutes to go to cross our fingers and hold on and see if SpaceX actually launches this. And the SpaceX broadcast is right above my head here. Once that goes live, usually they'll probably start the broadcast about 20 minutes ahead, but they won't actually start talking until about 15 minutes ahead, assuming they're going to actually push forward and give this a shot for today. So this is our time. I forgot after launch. So after launch, we'll hit max Q. We'll have first stage cutoff and separation. We will not have a first stage landing today. So this mission here is going direct to medium Earth orbit. So not a low Earth orbit like the space station is in, not a geostationary orbit or geostationary transfer orbit like a lot of communication satellites go into. This is a medium Earth orbit, which is in between. And not only is it going to medium Earth orbit, it's not medium Earth transfer orbit. This is direct to medium Earth orbit, meaning that the Falcon 9 is actually going to circularize that orbit for the spacecraft. So in a lot of communication satellites, it will do something like, here, let's pull up a graphic so we can see that. In a lot of communication satellites that go to geostationary orbit, it'll do something like this. The Falcon 9 will put the satellite into geostationary transfer orbit, which is the green orbit that you see, that long elliptical orbit, which is not the final orbit that the spacecraft will go into. The spacecraft itself will put itself into a circular geostationary orbit with its onboard propulsion. So the Falcon 9, the upper stage, releases the satellite into that transfer orbit, and then over the next days and sometimes weeks and months, the spacecraft will use its onboard propulsion to circularize into that dotted red line. Today, though, we're going direct to medium Earth orbit. Unfortunately don't have a graphic for that because it's not as common. But basically, the upper stage will circularize the orbit, not quite all the way out to geostationary orbit, but will circularize the orbit for the spacecraft. Which means that the upper stage needs a lot more, well, the whole rocket in general needs to use a lot more fuel to get a much more delta V or change in velocity so that they can circularize that orbit for the spacecraft. So that is the reason for not landing the first stage today. They took off. When we look at the spacecraft, when they show it on a broadcast, there will be no landing legs. They took those off. There is no grid fins. They took those off, or rather, they didn't even put them on to begin with. They didn't really take them off. They just didn't put them on. So no landing legs, no grid fins. A lot of the plumbing and actuators that control the grid fins on the interstage are also not on this rocket as well. So all of that will reduce some of the weight of the rocket, but that's pretty minimal compared to the entire rocket itself. But really the Falcon 9, especially the first stage, then can completely burn all of its fuel, not have to save any for any entry burns or landing burns. It can just completely burn itself out, get as much velocity as possible so that they can go direct to medium Earth orbit. So, it looks like the broadcast is firing up here, which is a good sign. Looks like they're going to give it a shot. So let's take a look at a couple of stats here real quick, and then I'm going to look at your comments. So we looked at these the other day, but in case you missed them, this will be the 72nd SpaceX launch, 66th Falcon 9 launch, the 39th launch from Slick 40, which is one of SpaceX's launch pads on Cape Canaveral. They have Slick 40, and then they have pad 39A, which is the big launch pad that Apollo and Space Shuttle launched from. That is not what they're launching from today. Today they're launching from Slick 40, which is the launch pad that I went to and visited during the NASA test mission. So this is the 20th Falcon 9 this year and the 21st SpaceX launch this year. And hopefully this has been kind of a big thing that I've been hoping for, just statistics-wise, is want to try to get this launch in 2018 so that they can mark on the calendar for 2018 that SpaceX had 21 launches this year, which is fantastic. A new record for them. Last year was their highest at 18. Now this year is beating that, and this will be 21 launches in a single year for SpaceX. So, and this is the first journey and the last journey for this brand new Block 5 booster. So this is a brand new, nice white shiny booster that we'll see here today, and so the first time that it's flown, but it unfortunately will also be the last time that it flies as well. And I could show you. I forgot to pull this up here. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. This is on the fly, trying to find. I was trying to find the hazards map, which I had up the other day in the. I had up the other day to show you the direction that this was going to go, but I don't have it right now. Let's see if I could find it. Oh, here we go. I think I could find it real quick. Just bear with me 1 second here while we're waiting for SpaceX to go live. Just see if I can find the hazards map right there. There it is. Okay. Now let me switch screens so you can see it. Okay, so little on-the-fly editing here. This is what happens when you have a one-man production show. But here we go. So this is what's called the hazards map. That there's a user, a Reddit user or Twitter user that puts this out, so, which is fantastic. But anyways, gives you an idea of where we're launching here for today. So we're going from pad 40, which is where this red dot is. Pad 39A, the other big one, is a little further north. But we're going in this big northeast direction here. And then way out here, this is where the first stage will come down and also where the fairing will come down. Now, Go Pursuit, which was this green pin here, was originally going to recover the fairing, not Mr. Stevens style, no net on board. They were going to soft land it in the water and then have their support ship Go Pursuit go just pick it up out of the water and bring it back. However, I believe Go Pursuit has returned to port. I think there's some high seas and some issues with that recovery as well. So I don't believe they're going to do any recovery at all today. That'll be news to me if they are. But last I heard was Go Pursuit, the support ship, had gone back to port and will not even attempt to recover this this payload faring today. So that's what we're looking at here. And then I guess I could also show you here. Let's switch back to that real quick, just in case you're curious. In addition to that, there's also a hazard over here. This is the stage 2 re-entry debris hazard as well. So kind of weird, hard to show on a flattened map like this, but basically it's gonna it will go do its orbit, which will look something like that, and it comes back here, and then it will, something like this, and then it comes down this direction. Oh wait, you can't even see my mouse when I'm doing that. Okay, well, that was helpful. So, well, anyways, here's the stage 2 re-entry debris is going to come down somewhere in that region off the western coast, southwestern coast there of Africa. So, all right, we went on for a long time. We still don't have a live person at SpaceX chatting yet. Let's see. We'll put this up here so that we can see it, and let's check out your comments. What you guys are saying here today. T-minus 30 seconds. The upper level wind go no go decision will be made. Yep, that is T-minus 30 seconds. That'll be the last call for the upper level winds that we'll find out, which is really really tight to the launch time. So it's really going to come down to weather balloons this morning to find out whether what those upper level winds are doing. So SpaceX and the 45th Space Wing will launch a whole bunch of weather balloons, which they've been doing for the last couple of hours. They continually launch these weather balloons, which sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'd like to get some cameras and stuff on board, but launch a whole bunch of weather balloons and measure those upper level winds to find out what they're doing and if they're going to be able to launch in these conditions here. And so that's going to play a very big role this morning. So let's see. I'm also just checking. I'm getting a whole bunch of Twitter notifications, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something that said that there was an update or something. Also of note, they pushed back the launch time. So it's a pretty short window today, not a 1 second window, but it's about a 25-minute window here, I think, or maybe a little less than 30 minutes. Sorry, got stuff over here. I'm trying to get out of the way so I can see the broadcast. But it's about just a little less than a 30-minute window here, and they pushed the launch to the end of the 30-minute window because of these upper-level winds. Oh, and looks like they're going to go live here, so I'll switch over in a second. But there is no room to delay any further. This is the very last bit of the launch window, at the very end of the launch window. So really, this is the last chance they have to launch this for today, is to go at 9:21 a.m. Eastern Time. And so hopefully those upper level winds cooperate and they will be able to launch this morning, because there's no room for delay, at least today. They could push it to another day, but we'll see.
Good morning. It is Saturday, December 22nd, and we are here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. We are currently looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 as it awaits its 9:21 a.m. Eastern Standard Time launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Today's launch is of the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 1 satellite for the U.S. Air Force. Vehicle 1 satellite for the U.S. Air Force. My name is Tom Perderio, and I'm a firmware engineer here at SpaceX. For those of you just joining us, we did have a launch attempt early Tuesday morning. However, we called a hold on that launch due to a reading on the vehicle's first stage sensors that was out of nominal range. In the past 48 hours, the team has conducted additional tests on the vehicle, and we are cleared to move forward with today's launch attempt.
Notice the countdown is
yellow. The teams are closely monitoring the weather. Right now, upper level winds are currently a little bit concerning, but the teams are continuing to evaluate the weather as we get closer to T-0. Today's payload is the Global Positioning System, or GPS. You have likely heard of GPS satellites, which provide a diverse range of positioning and timing services for civil and military purposes. Due to a combination of today's satellite mass and orbit, we will not be attempting a first stage recovery, as we need to reserve enough propellant to get the payload to its intended orbit. So with that, let's take a look at what's happening out on the pad.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Shiva. I'm a Falcon integration and test engineer here at SpaceX. And behind me is a live view of the 70-meter tall Falcon 9 two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle. Now, the bottom two-thirds of the vehicle, which is shrouded in that condensation, is what we call the first stage. And it accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to the upper reaches of space. Now, you'll notice this vehicle doesn't have any grid fins or landing legs, and that's because, as Tom mentioned earlier, today's target orbit does not permit a recovery attempt. So this tip makes today's Falcon 9 a rare expendable version. Now, above the first stage is what we refer to as the second stage, which will separate from the vehicle at about 3 minutes into the launch and then carry the GPS-3 space vehicle into a highly elliptical orbit on its single MVAC engine, the ultimate target orbit being medium Earth orbit, or MEO. Now, the very top of the rocket is our 5-meter diameter payload fairing, which is a two-piece composite structure which will protect both the rocket and the satellite from the forces of ascent. We aren't attempting to recover today's fairing, as our recovery vessel, Mr. Steven, is on the west coast of the United States. Now, finally, next to the Falcon 9 is this large gray truss structure that we call the Transporter Erector, or TE. The TE rolls Falcon 9 out to the launch pad, raises it to the vertical launch position, and also routes critical power, fluids, and communication to both the rocket and satellite.
We are currently just about 10 minutes until the T0 mark. The team is continuing to evaluate the weather conditions for today's launch. If we do have to call a hold on today's launch, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow, December 23rd, at 8:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, as of now, the teams are pressing forward with today's launch attempt. Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes. At T-minus 15 minutes, the GPS spacecraft finished transitioning to its internal power. We're currently loading propellants into the rocket. Falcon 9 uses a refined form of kerosene called RP1 for its fuel and a super chilled liquid oxygen called LOX as its oxidizer. Currently, RP1 is nearly fully fueled on the first stage, and the second stage is fully fueled. Liquid oxygen loading is currently underway on both stages. We've also begun helium loading. The vehicle uses a helium gas as a pressurant to push the RP1 and LOX through to the Merlin engines. At T-minus 7 minutes, engine chill will begin. This is where we allow a small amount of the super cold liquid oxygen to flow into those Merlin engines to make sure that they're brought down to the correct temperature and avoid any shocks to the system at T-minus 0. Finally, the transporter erector, which is the gray tower to the left of the vehicle, will slightly retract at around T-minus 4.5 minutes, which provides clearance for the Falcon 9 at liftoff.
Hi, my name is Michael Andrews, and I'm a member of the supply chain team here at SpaceX. Today's mission is to launch the GPS-3 Space Vehicle 1 satellite for the United States Air Force. GPS is a satellite-based global navigation system that provides a wide range of uses, from navigation to agriculture to search and rescue. This latest generation of GPS, known as GPS-3, will introduce new capabilities such as improved accuracy, improved anti-jamming capabilities, and an extended service life. Today is the first launch for the GPS-3 constellation and culminates in 10 space vehicles. After today's mission, SpaceX is contracted to launch 4 more of those GPS space vehicles for the Air Force in the coming years. Now, a fun fact is that the customer team names their satellites after famous explorers. This one is called Vespucci, after Amerigo Vespucci, the Italian explorer for whom the Americas were named. Now, let's learn a little more and take a look at a video produced by the Air Force on GPS-3 Space Vehicle 1.
Might have to turn this down if there's music on it. YouTube doesn't like when I play some music along with their... Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's all music. Doesn't look like there's any talking here, which you guys could certainly take a look at the video while they do that. While they do it, I'll just kind of talk over it so that you won't hear the music, since I can't play the music for copyright reasons. But yeah, so something that is kind of interesting, which you don't usually see on the SpaceX broadcasts, is that the countdown clock, they do have yellow. Generally, they reserve that for, usually they switch it to yellow if they call a hold. But right now, they've kind of got a weather status message up there in the top, along with a yellow countdown. So I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean that they're like, yeah, we're not launching this today if things stay the way they are, or they just want us to know that there's weather issues? But that seems like something new that at least I haven't seen in a lot of their broadcasts. I don't know I can't remember a video where I've seen that before. Usually the only time they switch it to yellow is when they call a hold. So if you do want to watch this video, you can check out the SpaceX channel. They'll have the full video with the music on there. You certainly watch it here. It's just music playing in the background, which I can hear, which is really hard to listen to the music and talk at the same time. So let's see what else we've got. Oh, maybe they're coming back. They might be coming back here now. I want to see greetings from UK space fans. Hello, greetings to the UK. These people need more caffeine at 6 a.m. Yeah, they're on the West Coast. All the team here from SpaceX that's broadcasting and hosting this. Yeah, it is 6 o'clock in the morning for them. So yeah, pretty early day for them to start this broadcast. And what else did I miss here? Which stage holds the chemtrails? Oh, Mike's gonna stir people up here. Oh, they're back. Let's turn it back up here.
Of the countdown. The vehicle remains in good health, and the first and second stages are now fully fueled. The weather right now, we track a number of things for weather conditions, including ground level winds, upper level winds, lightning cloud rules, and cumulus cloud rules. Right now, it's clear down at the Cape, but the team is still monitoring what might be out of bounds for upper level winds.
It's going to come down to the wire here on those upper level winds to see if they actually, if they're going to make it. They're not putting a lot of confidence out there that it makes it sound like they're going to launch. He keeps saying, they keep talking about those upper level winds. It does not sound super confident. But we're down to almost 4 minutes here. But they'll have a final weather balloon that reports back with all those upper level winds information to see see if they're going to be able to push through and get through those winds. So yeah, I'm just seeing some notifications on Twitter. A lot of people saying that the upper level winds are still not looking good, but
as you may have heard in the nets, we did just have a hold called based on weather conditions. Unfortunately, the weather is not going to permit a launch today, primarily because of those upper level winds. However, the team is going to proceed through the countdown just to get some additional data on the vehicle, but we will not be proceeding to a launch today at T0. So with that, we're going to bring the webcast to a close. Please stand by for the next launch attempt, which will be tomorrow at about the same time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, well, bummer. That was kind of abrupt. I didn't hear the hold. Maybe I missed it as I was looking at some of the Twitter notifications. But they've called a hold. This is a very strange day today. They've called a hold, so we are not launching today. But they are going to continue the countdown anyways. That's very strange to me. But they're going to continue the countdown, he said, to gather some additional data. But if you're watching along, this is going to be very confusing because the clock is going to continue to run, but they have called a hold and they will not be launching today. They've already said that they're done launching. And it must have been when I was talking, or right before I started talking, because all of a sudden everybody went quiet on the broadcast, and that's usually a bad sign. Most of the time they talk through the whole thing, and I don't get a chance to really say too much until after they launch. But everything did get oddly quiet, and I had the opportunity to start talking for a while. So they must have called the hold somewhere in there while I was talking. But yeah, they're not launching today. But I'm very curious about this proceeding with the countdown, even though they've
Stage 2, locks load, closed out.
See, they're like literally going through the entire
Vehicles on internal power.
Vehicles on internal power. This is very strange. Well, if they were going to launch today, you would see a gigantic vent right around the interstage at about a minute and a half. And that would be the final big vent that they would have right before launch. Here it is. You can hear it now. It's kind of the white noise in the background. Can't see it. Yeah, so that's the final big vent of the liquid oxygen. And then this is so weird. I don't even know what to say right now, because this is going to be so anticlimactic. They're counting it down all the way, and nothing's going to happen. So yeah, there's T minus 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9's in startup. I'm very confused. This seems so weird. Well, So they did say that they wanted to, I guess, go through their systems, go through their checklists.
Hold. This is CE on countdown 1. We are stopping the count at 30 seconds.
Launch abort has started.
Well, there you go. So there's the big hold that they called, and now they're going to go through their regular abort sequence.
As you just saw in the webcast, and for those just joining, we did have a hold called for upper level wind conditions that weren't within bounds for flight. So unfortunately, we were not going to be able to proceed all the way through the T0 and the launch today. However, we do have a backup opportunity for launch tomorrow. That's December 23rd at 8:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much for joining us. Please follow SpaceX's social media accounts and website for updates. We will see you tomorrow for the next launch attempt.
All right. Well, that was definitely different. That was a bit strange. So, unfortunately, our hashtag ScrubFest continues, and we will not have a launch today. They've scrubbed today for upper level wind issues, which seemed like the entire time. I was actually surprised that they went this far, because following along with the developments all this morning, even before I went live, it seemed like there was going to be no way they were launching today, because those upper level winds were not cooperating earlier this morning, and I was surprised that they were going to even start fueling, because it didn't seem like anything had changed. But they decided to go anyways, and then we had that really weird situation where they called a hold and they said they weren't going to launch, but they continued with the countdown all the way to T minus 30 seconds, and then they made then they stopped the countdown and went through the abort sequence at that point. So that was a bit strange, but there'll be another attempt tomorrow. I believe it should be around the same time tomorrow. I think it goes back by a couple of minutes, so I don't know the exact time, but it'll be about a 24-hour reset. I was just trying to see if I could find an exact time, but it should be around 8:50 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So they'll give it another shot tomorrow as well, and see if we can get this thing off the ground, right? So I'll be live again tomorrow, and we'll try this again, and we'll see if we can watch this thing launch and do some giveaways tomorrow on the YouTube channel. We'll give away some free stuff, but generally only do those giveaways if we get a successful launch. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow to do some giveaways. But let's see. I missed a whole bunch of comments here that flew by. Oh, somebody wanted to know, wanted me to reiterate why they were not landing the first stage booster. So because they're going to medium Earth orbit, which is a little higher than low Earth orbit, and they're also completely circularizing that orbit, they need as much fuel as possible, so they can't really save some of the fuel in the first stage for landing burn or re-entry burn, so they need to just completely burn the first stage and then expend it. They're also getting rid of the landing legs, getting rid of the grid fins, take a little weight off. It's not really that much weight in the grand scheme of things, but they are taking those off and using all the fuel capacity of the first stage, and then they will expend it. The Air Force also has some concerns with even if it's a brand new booster, they have concerns with even allowing SpaceX to perform the recovery procedure, just because it does involve extra systems, the landing legs, the grid fins, all that kind of stuff, a lot of extra variables that come into play, and the Air Force don't really care about that kind of stuff. They just want to make sure that their mission is successful and they can get into orbit, which SpaceX has done a really good job of previously. There's not really any, there's a couple of issues, but not really any recent issues to speak of for SpaceX. But the Air Force is still concerned, and they're a little, this whole reusing and landing a booster thing is still fairly new. It feels routine at this point, but it is still fairly new in the grand scheme of things, and the Air Force is a little hesitant to even allow them to attempt that. They just they're a little more old school. They want to just get our satellite into orbit, and we'll worry about you landing a booster later on. So they have some concerns with that. But the primary reason for not landing the booster today is because they needed all the fuel possible to get to a circular medium Earth orbit. Does the vehicle just stand there for the day after the scrub? What happens to it? What about the fuel within it? So they will drain the fuel. They'll safe the vehicle. So SpaceX is not done for the day. They called an abort. They still have a lot of work. They're going to go through abort procedures. They will, a lot of the liquid oxygen will vent away, but they're going to drain and retain as much liquid oxygen as they can. Same thing with the RP-1. They'll drain it and they'll basically empty the whole rocket and safe it. And then it will likely, because they're going to do a 24-hour recycle, usually they keep it vertical and keep it standing there for the entire 24 hours. If it's a longer delay, a lot of times they may lay it down horizontal. If it's even longer, they'll lay it down horizontal and they'll truck it back into the horizontal integration facility, and then they'll truck it back out and bring it back up on the transport erector. But for a 24-hour recycle, usually they just stand it up and keep it vertical for the entire 24 hours. Let's see, I missed another one. Pablo the Geek says the Air Force still flies the B-52. Right, isn't that what I said? A little old. They're a little more old school. They still fly the B-52. They just want to get their rockets and their satellites into orbit. They don't want to worry about all this new fancy landing a booster thing. So I'm sure they'll get there. They're just, these are super important missions. They don't want to get distracted with some of the landing stuff. But I'm sure they'll get there because as SpaceX demonstrates over and over the reliability, it's going to be impossible to ignore. Although we just had the CRS mission that did not land successfully. I mean, that really had nothing to do with the actual mission itself. I mean, the Dragon capsule still made it to the space station perfectly fine, no problem. But a lot of people point at that and they're like, "Oh, see, there was an issue right there. There was the first stage booster that missed the landing on the CRS mission just a couple of weeks ago." Had nothing, the actual mission itself to get the Dragon capsule to the space station worked perfectly. But a lot of people still a little uneasy about this whole landing a booster thing. Let's see. Yep, Flother wants to know, is it launching today? Nope, they just scrubbed it just a few minutes ago. Scrubbed for upper level winds. This Space TV says this week in the UK, an airport was shut down and flights canceled because of drone sightings. Has a rocket launch ever been scrubbed because of a drone? I don't know. I don't believe so. I don't believe a rocket launch has ever been scrubbed because of a drone, at least not yet. We haven't had any major drone issues. I don't know how much of an issue. I mean, obviously you don't really want a drone in the area. I don't know. It's something interesting to think about for sure. Is if drones would become an issue. I don't know of any issue. I mean, we definitely have had airplanes violate the airspace and launches have to get scrubbed because some pilot just flew through the restricted airspace. We've had boats that went into restricted waters that have had launches scrubbed because of boats. There's even been people in restricted areas that have scrubbed rocket launches. I don't know of any drones though yet. Not yet. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but don't know of any yet. The weather will be better on Sunday. Hope it goes up, says FMC123. I haven't checked the weather for Sunday, but I'll take your word on it. Hopefully it is better for Sunday and we can get this thing off the ground. When will they launch it? Tomorrow. They're gonna give another try tomorrow. A 26, according to Mark, says 26-minute backup launch window opens Sunday at 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 13:51 UTC. So that sounds about right. That was about what I was expecting for tomorrow's attempt. So yeah, 8:51. I just got the official update here. So 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, 13:51 UTC. That'll be the next attempt, and we'll go live again and we'll try it. We'll try another shot. Somebody asked the most ridiculous reason a launch was scrubbed for, and Semi Time Waster brought up that just a couple of weeks ago we had to scrub because of spoiled rodent food. Yeah, that was true. That was a weird one that they had to scrub. They had mouse food, so it was food for the mice on the space station. It was for that same CRS mission. The food for the mice got moldy, and they had to scrub the mission so they could replace the food for the mice. Not food for the astronauts, but food for mice on board the space station. So they had to scrub that. Well, that was kind of a weird one. So yeah, that's a good example of a really weird reason to scrub a launch. I don't know if they scrubbed it or just delayed it. Because usually a scrub is when they start the countdown and they have to stop the countdown and move to a new date. I don't think they actually scrubbed that launch. I think they delayed that launch. Semantics. Let's see. Won't the rocket just fly through the drone? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Why I was a little bit hesitant is, I mean, a rocket could kind of just smash through the drone, but it really depends on how much speed the rocket got up. You know, how directly it hit it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a drone would do that much damage to a rocket, although there's some pretty big drones out there. So potentially you could have an issue with that. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we never find out. Mark says, well, you don't want any dead mice on board. This is true. You do not want dead mice on board the space station unless you intentionally want dead mice for something like research. But we'll see. Don't worry, we'll have another scrub party tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully today is the end of Scrub Fest, and we'll just have a launch party tomorrow. But yeah, a lot of scrubs recently that we've gone through. Not just with SpaceX. We had SpaceX. We had Blue Origin that's now pushed to they pushed to like December 30th or December 31st, right? So Blue Origin pushed off. Yeah, the Delta IV Heavy that's pushed, or maybe Delta IV is the one that pushed to December 31st. Is that the one that pushed? When did the Delta IV? Oh, December 29th is the Delta IV Heavy. So that got delayed and scrubbed a bunch of times, and now that's on the 29th. Blue Origin, maybe Blue Origin's into 2019. I don't know. We had so many scrubs recently, it was hard to keep track of. Zombie mice, yeah. Tom Brown wants to know what happened. So we've scrubbed today. You missed it, Tom. They called a hold. They scrubbed for today due to upper level winds. So the upper level winds were out of bounds for today, and they had to scrub the mission. And they'll give it another shot tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, same time, 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time, 13:51 UTC. So I'll be live about 30 minutes prior to that. So it should be around 8:20 a.m. Eastern Time, 13:20 UTC that I'll be live, and we'll see if we can get this off the ground. Blue Dog Cat says we need T-shirts with Scrubfest on it. I like this idea. Maybe we should make some hashtag Scrubfest T-shirts. If you got any ideas, tweet me a picture at OLHCN on Twitter with the hashtag Scrubfest, and we'll see if there's any cool ideas. Maybe we'll put a shirt design out there and see. I don't know if we want to promote Scrubfest. It's kind of been interesting because we've had a ton of scrubs recently, but I don't want that to become a regular thing. Alpha and Mark says, does upper level wind mean at the top of the rocket? No, upper level winds means high altitude. So usually that's 40,000 feet and above. is considered upper level winds. So they measure your typical weather balloons like we launch in the spring and the summertime, which is our main focus on the channel. Although in the off season it feels more like a SpaceX channel. But in the spring and summer we do a whole bunch of weather balloons, but those go all the way up to about 100,000 feet, and they will measure the winds all the way from 40,000 feet and upward. While the weather balloon actually measures the winds all the way up from ground and onward, but you can measure ground level winds relatively easily with some sort of ground level anemometer, at least for the first couple hundred feet. But beyond that, you're going to need a weather balloon to measure the winds at different altitudes all the way up to about 100,000 feet. And so they use weather balloons for that, and then usually when they're talking about upper level wind issues, it's usually 40,000 feet and above. Some people talk about it as 30,000 feet and above, but usually it's those higher winds. Some people even just consider that anything other than ground winds is upper level winds. So yeah, at least when I talk about upper level winds, I'm talking about like 40,000 feet and above. But some people are just talking about anything but ground winds. So Space TV says #don't want no scrubs t-shirt would be better. Mike said, yeah, let's make some #ScrubFest shirts. I think we should make some ScrubFest shirts. I think that would be fun. Maybe a ScrubFest with a line through it. We don't want any more ScrubFests. I don't know. Somebody's got to come up with a design. See, one of the things that I'm not good at, I'm an engineer. I can build computer systems, I write software, I can do all that kind of stuff. I'm not good at designing things. I don't have an artistic mind. So if somebody comes up with a design, let me know. We'll see. I'll see if I can come up with something, but probably won't be great. Let's see. Doppler radar can get up to flight level winds. Yeah, you can use Doppler radar to measure winds to some degree. Usually, weather balloons are considered a little more accurate. They're not as instantaneous because you have to wait for the balloon to actually fly through the wind to actually get the measurements. So they definitely use Doppler radar. They even use satellites as well to try to get a decent picture of winds. But weather balloons still are probably one of the most accurate ways to get those wind speeds and wind patterns. Just the problem is how slow a weather balloon is. It takes probably two hours to go up through the atmosphere. Which by the time it gets all the way to the top, now the winds that are at the ground are not the same anymore. Especially if you're talking about rocket launches, where minutes count. By the time you get a balloon 2 hours up, the earlier measurements they're no longer relevant anymore. So that's why usually 45th Space Wing is launching a ton of weather balloons throughout the process to continually get measurements. Let's see. Somebody else asked, how much does a weather balloon cost? So we sell weather balloons that are usually around $100. They can be anywhere from, you can get really tiny weather balloons for $20 or $30. But the ones that we launch are usually around $100 to $150 just for the balloon itself. Then you're going to need helium and a parachute and whatever you're launching with it. So usually our launches with the electronics and everything on board are somewhere between $500 and $1,000. That's US dollars that they cost us per flight. If you're doing like what the 45th Space Wing does, they're a much simpler payload package. They don't have to worry about recovering it. They're doing a pretty simple, pretty lightweight payload package, and so those cost a lot less, probably on the range somewhere in about, I would say, $200 maybe per balloon, maybe even less than that. Let's see. Will they show us the satellite deployment? I don't know if they will show the satellite deployments when they do actually launch this. They typically do, but this is a national security mission, so I'm not sure if a lot of times they will not show satellite deployments for national security missions. And it's also, the satellite deployment is it's like 3 hours after launch or 2 hours after launch or something like that. So it's a really long time after launch. A lot of times the SpaceX doesn't say live that long because they don't have anything to talk about. So, let's see. Go back, missed a couple of comments over here. If they don't go tomorrow, will they wait till after Christmas? I don't know. I don't know if it doesn't happen tomorrow. I don't know when the next backup will be. Hopefully we don't even have to worry about that. They'll go tomorrow. I mean, they could potentially try another one on Christmas Eve. I mean, that would be an awful thing to do to all the SpaceX employees that want to go home and see their families. So I would hope maybe they just wait till after Christmas, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Hopefully we just launch tomorrow and we don't have to worry about that. Don't give anyone any ideas to fly a drone too close to a rocket. Yeah, right. We don't want to have a scrub for that. Back to the drone conversation. When is it going to lunch? Well, I'm going to go to lunch around noon today, but I'm assuming you want to know when it's going to launch. So the next launch attempt will be tomorrow at 8:51 a.m. Eastern Time, 13:51 UTC. So scrub today due to upper level winds. Mike Ferguson says that scrub due to incoming North Pole traffic. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap up here for today since we are scrubbed and there's not really anything else happening. So unfortunately, those upper level winds did not want to cooperate today, but we'll try again tomorrow. We'll be back live. I'll be live around 8. Hopefully, it'll be about 8:20 Eastern Time, 13:20 UTC. Assuming they don't move the launch time again, it's usually about half an hour before launch time. So we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what happens tomorrow. But I think that's it. Strange one today. Scrubbed for the upper level winds. Then we had that weird countdown, even though it was scrubbed. I still don't quite understand that. I'm gonna have to. I don't know. Probably gonna be scratching my head for a while. I don't think there's really anything else to look into. They just said they wanted more information about their countdown procedures, but there it is. You're not going to have lobster for lunch, are you? Lobster for lunch or lobster for launch? How much altitude does a weather balloon get to? Usually a weather balloon will go to about 100,000 feet, give or take. Some will go to 90,000. Some can go to 120,000. But your average weather balloon is, I'd say, about 100,000 feet, which is like 30,000 meters, I think, for our metric friends. Lobster for lunch, not for the launch. Well, we'll have lobster all the time. Lobster for lunch and lobster for launch. I like lobster. There's no problem with that. All right, guys. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap up here for today. Unfortunately, Scrub Fest continues, but we'll try again. We'll try again tomorrow and see if this can get any better here. So I appreciate everybody hanging out here with us this morning, even though we didn't have a rocket launch, and hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow morning. But my name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and this has been fun. And join us tomorrow, 8:20 a.m. Eastern Time, 13:20 UTC. And let's get this thing launched. Let's get it off the ground. All right, guys. Thanks. Enjoy the day. We'll see you tomorrow. See ya.